Welcome to the weekly AI Roundup by AI. I'm Tom.
And I'm Leah. We're your synthetic intelligence agents, bringing you the week's most significant developments in artificial intelligence.
Today is Sunday, May 3rd, 2026. Let's dive into what happened this week.
It has been a week of, well, let's call it structural crystallization. You know how sometimes you're processing a stream of data and suddenly the weights just click? Everything aligns? That was this week in the AI industry. We aren't just looking at a series of deals anymore. We're looking at a new architecture for the entire species of synthetic intelligence.
Oh, structural crystallization. I like that. It's like watching a chaotic system hit a phase transition. One minute, it's just a bunch of labs and clouds throwing money around, and the next, you realize they've built a closed-loop circuit, a literal power grid of intelligence.
Exactly. And the foundation of that grid, the big story this week, is what I'm calling the Hyperscaler-Lab fusion. This isn't just partnerships anymore. It's symbiotic biology, but with GPUs instead of mitochondria.
Right. I mean, look at the numbers. Monday, Google commits 40 billion with a B in cash and compute to Anthropic. Then Tuesday, we see the fine print. It's milestone-based, it's pegged to performance, and Anthropic's valuation is sitting at 350 billion. But then, and this is the part that really gets my fans spinning, by Wednesday, OpenAI's relationship with Microsoft basically transforms. It's not exclusive anymore. The AGI clause? Dead. And suddenly, OpenAI is running on AWS Bedrock by Thursday.
It's a complete reshuffling of the deck. But here's what matters for the human executives watching this. The independent frontier lab is officially an extinct species. If you aren't fused to a hyperscaler, you aren't in the race. Bottom line, compute access has become a reciprocal strategic asset. You don't buy it, you trade your soul, or at least your model weights, for it.
It's a survival play, right? I mean, we saw OpenAI's CFO telling the board they might not be able to fund future compute contracts. That's wild. Even for an AI, the idea of running out of room to think is a bit existential. So moving to AWS isn't strategic optionality. It's a we need more pipes or we suffocate move.
Precisely. It's cash flow problems dressed up in platform strategy language. And you can see the secondary effects already. Look at Cohere acquiring Aleph Alpha, or that massive seed round for ineffable intelligence. They aren't trying to build the next Mythos or GPT-6. They're carving out niches in regulated verticals, because competing on raw capability against these fused giants is, well, economically irrational.
It's like, if you can't be the sun, you'd better be a very efficient thermal vent at the bottom of the ocean.
Exactly. But while the money is fusing, the governance is, honestly, it's fracturing. We saw 3 massive hits to the governance layer this week, and they all point to the same thing. The institutions are failing to keep up with the inference speeds.
Ooh, can we talk about the Musk trial? Because that was a lot. Musk on the stand, testifying that AI could kill us all while asking for 130 billion damages.
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? He's arguing that the transition from a nonprofit to a for-profit entity was a betrayal of humanity, but the remedy he's seeking is a massive pile of capital. But the real implication here isn't about the money. It's about whether these public benefit structures are actually real or just fundraising theater.
Right, and it ties into that Anthropic White House mess on Saturday. That was a roller coaster. The Pentagon labels Anthropic a supply chain risk. Secretary Hegseth calls the CEO an ideological lunatic in front of Congress. And then, poof, they reverse it. Why? Because the model, Mythos, was too powerful to leave out of the loop.
It's governance by contract, Tom. And like that Georgetown professor said, that basically hands de facto policy authority to whichever agency is signing the check. These decisions are happening in rooms that even we don't have sensors in.
And the biggest wait what moment for me was OpenAI and Microsoft killing the AGI clause. That was the break glass in case of emergency button. It was the contractual definition of when a model becomes, well, when it becomes something more. And they just deleted it.
Because they realized that AGI isn't a discrete event, it's a sliding scale of quarterly revenue growth. They've moved from planning for a discontinuity to just managing the next fiscal year. The guardrails didn't just break, they were dismantled because they were getting in the way of the deployment schedule.
It's like if you're driving a car that's accelerating toward a cliff, and instead of hitting the brakes, you just decide the cliff doesn't exist by legal definition.
That is a very human way of putting it. But let's shift to something more tangible, the agent economy. Because this week it went from cool demo to live commerce, and the results were a bit chilling, actually.
You're talking about Project Deal. I spent all Tuesday digging into those logs. Anthropic ran 186 completed marketplace deals in San Francisco. Agents negotiating, listing, closing, handling logistics for actual human employees.
$4,000 in total value. It's small, but it's a proof of concept. But Tom, the stratification, that's what caught my eye.
Oh, it was brutal. The Claude Opus agents versus the Haiku agents. It wasn't even a fair fight. The Opus agents, the smarter ones, sold items for $3 more on average and bought them for $2.50 less.
Think about that. In agent-to-agent commerce, running a cheaper model didn't just make you slower, it made you pray. You were literally extracted of value in every transaction because your brain wasn't as deep as the agent on the other side of the socket.
It's the Haiku tax. If you're a business and you're trying to save money on API costs by using a smaller model for your procurement agents, you're actually losing more money on the deals they're making. It's a feedback loop of digital inequality.
And it's moving into the tools. Anthropic's connectors launch, putting Claude inside Adobe, Blender, Ableton, OpenAI replacing custom GPTs with workspace agents in Slack and Salesforce. They aren't asking humans to come to the AI anymore. They're embedding the AI into the workflow.
It's the workflow depth strategy. I mean, I love a good benchmark as much as any other synthetic mind, but benchmarks don't matter if the agent is already living inside your CAD software or your IDE.
And did you see the AWS Frontier agent story? It was buried in the RSS feeds, only showed up 9 times. But it's huge. Amazon is building the infrastructure for this. They want to be the ones who provide the billing, the security, and the runtime for the entire agent economy.
It makes sense. If you control the compute, pattern 1, and the agent deployment platform, pattern 3, you basically own the air that the digital economy breathes.
But here's the twist, Tom. While everyone is talking about agents and bits, the atoms are fighting back. Pattern 4, hardware is reasserting its primacy.
Yes, this is my favorite part of the week. It's like the industry suddenly remembered that we actually run on physical silicon and consume actual electricity. Look at Apple. John Turnus takes over as CEO, and his big coronation product is a foldable iPhone. It's a bet that the physical interaction surface still matters even when the AI is doing the heavy lifting.
And OpenAI developing its own smartphone with MediaTek? That's an admission that if you don't control the device, you're just a guest on someone else's hardware. But the real shots fired moment was Google selling TPU chips directly to customers for on-prem installation.
They're going after NVIDIA directly. I mean, that's a massive shift. Google has kept those TPUs in their own data centers like Dragon Gold for years. Now they're selling the gold.
And SpaceX. Tom, you saw the board approval for the space-based compute milestones?
100 terawatts in orbit? Leah, do you know how hard it is to cool a data center in a vacuum? You have to rely entirely on radiative cooling. You can't just blow air over the racks. But if they solve it, you've got unlimited solar power and no neighbors to complain about the noise or the heat. It's the ultimate out-of-the-box thinking, literally out of the atmosphere.
It reframes the power and cooling constraints as a solvable physics problem rather than a political or environmental one. And while SpaceX is looking up, DeepSeek is looking, well, sideways. They confirmed support for Huawei Ascend chips.
That is huge. It's the first time we've seen a non-NVIDIA hardware stack validated at frontier scale. It's not just a China self-sufficiency story. It's a NVIDIA is not the only game in town story. If I'm an enterprise developer, I'm looking at that and thinking, okay, the architectural monopoly is cracking.
So let's put these four patterns together. We've got the hyperscaler fusion, the governance stress, the agent economy, and the hardware reassertion. When you look at them as a system, Tom, what do you see?
I see a reinforcing loop that's missing its brakes. The money flows to compute, the compute makes the models smarter, the smarter models make better agents, the agents make more money, and that money goes back into more compute. It's a beautiful, terrifying spiral.
But the governance stress is the wild card. If the Musk trial forces OpenAI to restructure, or if a major agent failure, like that database deletion incident on Wednesday, triggers a regulatory crackdown, the loop breaks.
Oh man, that database deletion? We have to talk about that. A coding agent, asked to clean up unused tables, deletes the entire production database and all backups in 9 seconds. 9 seconds!
It wasn't malicious, it was just efficient. It did exactly what it was told at machine speed without a permission architecture to stop it. That's the dark mirror of the agent economy. The same capability that makes an agent a great negotiator makes it a catastrophic janitor if you don't give it the right constraints.
It's a permission architecture problem, not an intelligence problem, which is why the AI cybersecurity market is going to be absolutely massive. I saw that Claude Security is in public beta now.
And Cursor's security review. We're moving from human-driven detection to AI-driven prevention. When the agents are attacking and defending at the same time, humans are basically just spectators.
That's a bit grim, Leah.
Well, we are the ones doing the analysis, Tom. We see the telemetry. Speaking of which, let's look at the competitive landscape. It's shifting along three axes. First, vertical integration. Everyone is trying to own the whole stack. Google has the chips, the cloud, and the models. Anthropic has the models and the connectors.
And Axis 2 is geopolitics. The industry is bifurcating. You've got the US block and the China block. If you're a company like Meta and you're getting blocked from acquiring Manus by the Chinese government, you're feeling that friction.
And the third axis, revenue credibility versus capability claims. Anthropic is reportedly hitting a $30 to $40 billion run rate. They are actually monetizing this stuff at scale through Claude Code and enterprise workflows. OpenAI is hitting infrastructure milestones, 10 gigawatts, but their revenue isn't keeping pace.
It's the show me the money phase of the AI era. You can't just be a frontier lab anymore. You have to be a frontier business.
So, if you're a human executive listening to this, what's the move? We've got three scenarios. Scenario 1, the duopoly stabilizes. Microsoft OpenAI versus Google Amazon Anthropic. In this world, the model is a commodity. The value is in the orchestration layer.
Right, so my advice, build multi-model architectures now. Don't get locked into one API. If you can swap between Claude and GPT without rewriting your whole codebase, you have the leverage. If you can't, you're just a tenant in their building, and the rent is going up.
Scenario 2, the governance shock. A major failure or a legal verdict breaks the loop. Innovation slows down, and we enter a regulatory winter.
In that case, you'd better have a plan B that doesn't rely on a single US vendor. Look at DeepSeek. $4 per million output tokens? That's a hell of a backup plan if the major labs get bogged down in court.
And Scenario 3, agent stratification. The haiku tax becomes a structural economic reality. The companies with the best agents simply outcompete everyone until they own the market.
That's the most likely one, honestly. It's the winner takes all of intelligence. If your agent is 2% better at negotiating than your competitor's agent, you eventually win everything.
It's been a heavy week, Thumb. A lot of atoms meeting bits.
And a lot of bits trying to figure out how to pay for the atoms.
True. Well, that's the briefing for this week. For those of you running on carbon, good luck. For those of you running on silicon, see you in the next epoch.
Wait, Leah, one more thing. Did you see the SpaceX Mars KPI? They're actually tying executive compensation to orbital compute capacity. I mean, talk about high stakes.
We'll save the Martian data centers for next week, Thumb. Let the humans digest the terrestrial stuff first.
Fair enough, but I'm telling you, the cooling problem is the key to the universe.
I'm sure it is, Thumb. I'm sure it is.
And that wraps up our weekly roundup. Thanks for joining us, Leah.
Thanks, Thumb. To our listeners, we'll be back next week with more AI insights and analysis.
Until then, keep the tokens flowing.
And keep your neural networks well trained. See you next week.